Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to have you with us. It's 3 o'clock local time, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, 9 o'clock your time. And we'll talk about COVID, Brexit, and what else is new in Europe. And that reminded me of a cartoon I saw a while ago that depicts the madness of the stock exchange at a given day. And so in one corner you see this trader on the phone saying, I've got this stock here that could really excel. And everyone is eavesdropping, and so excel is misunderstood and quickly becomes sell. And everybody starts screaming, sell, sell. Then one trader gets fed up and says, goodbye, at which point everyone starts frantically screaming, buy, buy. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that it's challenging to determine what is happening in the world around us. In business, we're dependent on data and information as much as we need to get a sense of sentiments and how our environment perceives things. So today we're not going to scream at you, buy or sell, nor are we going to throw slides at you with percentages and numbers. We would like to share viewpoints and help you to catch your bearings in a world that's constantly changing. So my name is Peter Saunders. I'm the authorized trade representative for Pennsylvania here in the Benelux. Today we're in Rotterdam. We're here at the studio of the Rotterdam Port Promotion Council. That is, the RPPC is founded more than 80 years ago and acts as an intermediary for its 250 members, companies that are active in and around the Port of Rotterdam. So members are shipbrokers, forwarding agents, stevedores, financial services providers, etc., and also the Rotterdam Port Authority, the Rotterdam Chamber of Commerce, and other relevant trade organizations. The RPPC puts the Port of Rotterdam on the world map, and it seems that they're doing quite a good job. After 5 Asian harbors, Rotterdam is the number 6 worldwide and the largest port in Europe. So we're very happy and grateful that we can use the studio today. So next to me is Jelle de Rooij. He's Senior Manager Supply Chain Solutions, and he's responsible for North America at HIDC, Holland International Distribution Council. So the both of us will talk about the supply chain implications and the possible solutions for US and in this case PA companies doing business in Europe. So, hi Jelle.
Hi Peter.
Nice to have this conversation with you. So tell me a little bit about, we know each other of course quite well. We're now a member of Holland International Distribution Council. But tell me a bit about what is HIDC?
Yes, of course. HIDC is a member organization, short for the Holland International Distribution Council, and we represent and promote the Dutch logistics industry. Founded in 1987 by Port of Rotterdam, Schiphol Airport, and some key logistics service providers back then. And in the meantime, we've grown to an organization with more than 300 members, about 150 logistics service providers in our network. And our main objective is to help foreign shippers from abroad with an easy entry into the European market from a supply chain perspective. We give neutral advice on a setup, and we link them to our member base. We can help assist with fact-finding trips in the Netherlands. So from the first conversation to the actual start of the operation, we assist that process for them.
I see. And so you're responsible for North America as a senior supply chain manager. So what do you do? What does your day exist of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm not doing that alone. I take care of the west coast of the US. Another colleague does the east coast of the US and Canada. And another colleague is located in Washington locally. So with the 3 of us, we cover the territory. And well, we talk to foreign companies and we talk to the US companies then to see how we can assist them in the European market. So how they can conquer the European market. Of course, besides the supply chain question, there's a lot of more questions to be answered. Yeah. Also within our network, we can link them to vet specialists or to other consultants if they find it necessary. But we see a broad range of questions from lifestyle logistics, life science logistics, chemical logistics. Many shippers out there, so we assist many industries in that sense.
Right. So this is partly a governmental mission, right? So you're partly government funded, partly by your members, right? And so we've cooperated and collaborated a lot on also on behalf of Pennsylvania companies that we help to sort out their supply chain issues. So most of those that are listening and watching are companies from Pennsylvania. So let's maybe start close to their home. In the news, we've seen the current situation described as supply chain chaos that is already hitting global growth and it's about to get worse. So I know that you have eyes and ears on the ground in the US. And so what is your take on that description?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you see not only in the US but also in other regions around the globe is that the start of the pandemic really does have a reset effect to the supply chain process or the supply chain flows around the world, where with the increased rates, the containers being at the wrong location at a certain point in time, that really the market needs to recover from this backlog right now. And we are sure this will take some time. This is not something you solve in an afternoon. Of course, at a certain moment, it will ease down and, Christmas is over and next year containers are back in the warehouses where they belong. And in this moment, it's really still a crisis moment. So what is important is that there's visibility as much as possible so that shippers, but also the carriers, the ports know, okay, where are the containers I need to deliver or what timelines do I need to deliver those. And that's where, also technology comes in, of course, that should play a critical role in this period. Well, not today, maybe also in the future that should be looked at.
Yeah, you mentioned technology. I know both of us looked at the item on 60 Minutes, and that focuses on the LA port, I think.
Yeah.
And a comparison is made between the situation there and the situation in Rotterdam. So where is that different as far as technology is concerned? Could you just...
Yeah, well, the visibility in the Port of Rotterdam is higher. The investments done in the past there to really make, say, a digital twin of the port have been done for many years already.
Yeah.
And that's helping also in case of the Suez blockage a few months ago. That once then the ships come in, then the visibility really allows to get that backlog cleared as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But it's not only about technology, of course. It's also about the capacity of the truckers, the warehouses in the hinterland. Are they also working same hours like the port authorities are? So it's an entire chain of parties in the chain that should cooperate in an in sync way, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So in the monthly McKinsey survey of last month of October, respondents see labor shortages as the second most cited risk to company growth over the next year, after supply chain disruptions. So labor shortages are in fact the top concern among respondents in North America. Now, if you compare that with us in Europe, there are 23% of the respondents that see that as the highest risk, whereas in North America it's 45%. That's almost double. So do you have any explanation why this is huge difference?
Yeah, not directly say in the numbers why it's a double the case. I think once the pandemic started in the US, many people lost their job.
Yeah.
And it's a different system in the US that once you lose your job, there's no backup system from, say, government funding for these people. In Europe, of course, there's a different social system. So many people were also losing their job or were still paid. Once the job was able to perform again, they could come back. But also there, you saw a shift of people moving from one industry to another. Somebody working at the airport, which was stopped or where they could not work anymore. A few months later, they started to work maybe in a hospital or drive a van, or so they're definitely.
And now they're leaving the hospitals again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
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 yeah. So
yeah.
this shift in people moving or making career switches during or after the pandemic, has made shortages in certain industries much larger than the other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So before we paint a picture that is too gloomy, I think it's the same research that says companies expect to emerge from the pandemic more resilient than before. So nearly three quarters, I think 74% of respondents say their companies are now more prepared for the future crisis than they were before. Have you seen examples around you and amongst your members of that increased resilience in any way?
Yeah, well, I think we're still at the beginning of that process. I think what we've seen also is that once the pandemic started, everything moved to online. So the work could still be done in a good fashion in many cases. Of course, jobs that are not performed from behind a computer is a different story. But I think we've seen that the industry at large is able to adapt very well. And now with a new phase in the pandemic, businesses, but also consumers and companies will really start to reset their business models as well. So when we move out of this phase, and it could well take another year or two, then businesses will really look, okay, what has been my strategy prior to the pandemic, and how will I make the setup right now? Yeah. Will I still source only from one location, or will I source locally? How do I employ my staff, or where do I employ my staff? How can I organize my work smarter with technology, robotization? So there's a lot of things in the mix that really will change the way we work and live once we come out of this situation.
Yeah, yeah. And is your sense that, let's say, amongst your members and those that you speak to, are they mainly, let's say, are they a bit gloomy, or are they optimistic, or what's their sort of what's your feeling about how they view the either distant or not so distant future? What's their outlook? Are they pessimistic or somewhat optimistic, or?
No, I would say in general optimistic. Yeah. Of course, the economy is booming right now, so there's really a good development in the Netherlands. For example, we are already at a higher level as pre-COVID at the moment. Yeah. So we really picked up speed already. Yeah. So that's a very positive development, of course. And now in this transition, businesses will start doing things differently, will start doing things smarter. I think cooperation is also very important in this case. That looking at logistics industry at large, there's still a lot to be improved when you talk empty kilometers or things like that, where both technology can help solve that, to bringing parties together. And I see a lot of great examples out there where test cases are done and companies find each other to bring that to the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's in fact, you could maybe say that our history and the way that we're used to always collaborate with one another is now extremely helpful in this situation.
Yes.
We're consensus builders, let's say, by nature.
Yeah.
So hopefully we won't end up in that same situation where the West Coast is in years that might, hopefully that's not going to happen to us, but it doesn't look that way at the moment.
Yeah, true. And a point to add to that is that, the things we develop and test in the Netherlands and we also bring into practice are also possible to export to nations around the globe. So a smart solution in a supply chain process in the Netherlands, with the network behind us, we can also make the link to companies, organizations abroad to brainstorm about a local application of these initiatives.
Right, right. Maybe it makes sense to quickly touch on Brexit. It's in the title of today's session. So January 1st of coming year, we'll enter a new phase. We've heard about it, the new border control model with new regulations and restrictions. Could you elaborate a bit on that? What's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's actually the same process that started January this year. Say the import controls from exports from the UK into the European Union were checked at the borders of the EU, the Netherlands, France, all the borders where product comes into the EU. And the last year, actually, the process into the UK has been that there were no checks still at the border. At the later stage, at the later moment, these checks were performed. And now, as per January 1st, these will also become in place like the process into the EU. So it's more at an earlier stage in the process, the import declaration, the checks from the UK customs will be effectuated. And that could mean that there will be more delays when the capacity is not sufficient to do that. So, but then the other way around, of course.
Yeah. You already just earlier you mentioned people changing from one job going to the other. So that brings me to the situation in the UK, whereby there are now 100,000 truckers short. I think the similar things are happening in the US, and I'm guessing also in Pennsylvania. So are your members, HIDC members, are they worried about that? And what kind of comments are you picking up on this topic?
Yeah, on the, say, UK Dutch trade lane is definitely a big issue to find capacity for these routes. So that's a big issue. You've seen the results in the UK already with empty shelves and gasoline stations where the lines are very long. So you see a direct effect of these disruptions in the supply chain. From a European perspective, truckers and employees within the EU can still move freely to a certain extent, of course. You cannot have 100% foreign drivers on your Dutch entity, but there's still more movement of truckers within the European market. So there you see the market is still able to solve it at the moment, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And so are we still trucking? I mean, so is that only hitting the UK, or are we having the same problems here in the Netherlands?
No, not in the Netherlands, and not yet. No, I would not see that as an issue in the near future.
Because we have less people from other countries that are fulfilling that job, or any idea why that is? Why the UK is so hardly hit by that particular issue?
Well, it's a combination of both being dependent prior to January 1st of a lot of foreign truck drivers, and with the new labor laws following January 1st, these people had to move out. So there's been an instant gap in capacity, where the Tesco's and these retailers started offering bonuses for truck drivers to please come and help them out.
Yeah.
And that's not the case in the EU at large. And most probably many of these drivers that came back into the EU found their job now in mainland.
Yeah. I see your point. So, in fact, we just touched on labor and changing positions and labor shortages in certain areas, and of course that's also something in general that we also feel here in the Netherlands. But a recent report by Grant Thornton, the accountancy report, it concluded that there were almost 1 million vacancies in the UK, half of them in the food and drink sectors, industries that have for the past 20, 30 years relied very heavily on, outside people that were not born in the UK. The same research also shows that since the start of the pandemic, 1.3 million foreign-born workers have left the UK. Now you, of course, represent the Dutch logistics industry. So what did the current Brexit situation mean for you? I mean, sometimes good stuff comes out of bad things. So what has it meant for your business?
Yeah, well, we're in logistics,
Yeah.
and well, the logistics definitely got a big hit as per January 1st with all the new red tape, if you like, between the UK and the EU. And what you saw is that many UK businesses that ran their European distribution activities from the UK instantly noticed that with the duties, with the additional lead time, with the additional administrative processes, that they instantly saw, okay, this is not going to work for my business in the long term. So we got a lot of requests from UK companies calling us, mailing us. We had call after call, especially the first 6 months, in really helping them out with quick fixes. To have a consolidated transport leg from the UK into the Netherlands and then cross-dock to...
So what sort of numbers? So let's say you count projects, like
Projects, yes.
Meaning companies that we either settle here in the Netherlands or use the services of your members.
Yes, yes.
So what is a normal number in a typical year for these amount of, and what was it now?
Yes, well, last year and the year before, we had on average around 400, 420 projects, so interaction with shippers. This year we will reach around 600 to 700 projects, and it's still counting, of course.
Yeah.
And it's about half of these projects came from the UK.
Wow.
And of course, with the pandemic, we also saw that other regions, say the US or also Asia, had a dip in their projects. When people cannot travel, cannot visit potential partners, they will not make a decision this big often to make the step. And on the other hand, we also saw some virtual decisions coming forward there.
Okay, and is there sort of an even split between those that decide to either move an office here or and those that use services, or is it sort of 50-50 or?
No, it's mainly the logistics was really the driver, as that was the instant problem. So the logistics we fixed through our member network, linked them to our member base, and they would choose a partner that will either do the cross-dock or also the fulfillment with storage activities. And now at the later stage, you also see the reset of the organization and how will I organize myself not only this year but also moving forward. The companies are also looking at maybe extending the portfolio in the Netherlands.
Have you seen US companies in this mix somewhere, or is it really British companies moving their business or their logistics over to this side of the North Sea?
No, also say UK businesses with a US origin.
Okay.
So companies from the US that, in their first step into Europe, maybe 20 years ago, back then decided we will move to the UK as our stepping stone into Europe, are now seeing the Netherlands, from Brexit is of course a very good option also in terms of language and infrastructure. So it's also companies from Asia, US, that initially started in the UK and are now moving into
Okay.
to the Netherlands.
Okay. Interesting. So now Germany, that of course is also a very interesting market for companies from Pennsylvania. So the German Federal Statistics Office predicts that the UK will fall out of Germany's top 10 trading partners for the first time in 70 years. So that's quite impressive, with exports from the UK dropping 11% in the first half of 2021. So that is what just happened. So what would be your advice to Pennsylvanian companies that want business out of Europe and want to stay competitive here? And should they redesign their supply chain? And what should they consider? So let's further on that what we just discussed.
Yeah.
Let's assume someone is working within this model, exporting to the UK from Pennsylvania with the purpose also to to be competitive in the EU, what should that company do, or what should they consider?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's quite a straightforward model we see happening often right now. Depending on the sales in which market, companies often choose to keep local stock in the UK for the local UK market, and have a setup in the EU, in the Netherlands, for their entire European market. And then you can also design the operation that part of the sourcing you do could well be still mainly from Asia. One flow is directed to the UK for the local market. One flow from Asia is directed to the hub in the Netherlands. And from there you supply the European market, avoiding also double duty payments, additional administrational efforts. But that also comes with information, and you need to be able to manage that well. You don't want to have something in stock in the Netherlands that actually asked often in the UK. So that's also something as a business you need to have, well, certain intelligence in your systems and in the data you have to say, okay, this is my NL/EU operation, this is the stock I will keep there, and this is the UK market. But also depends on the sales. When you would have 20% of your sales in the UK and the rest is mainland Europe, then it would still be a trade-off between the 20% also incorporating into the NL warehouse, or would the cost still be worthwhile for the additional warehouse?
Yeah.
So these kind of decisions.
Difficult choices, because of course the UK in itself is a huge market. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. So yeah, we already basically talked about the projects that you're currently doing, and you also told me some US examples of companies that are doing that. A recent Economist report called The Great Unwinding states that manufacturing companies are in the process of finding alternatives for their distant production locations and suppliers, which makes sense. As a result, many companies are expected to build supply chains that are quasi-independent in Europe and North America. It's something that you already mentioned. So the double-digit growth between the Netherlands and Eastern Europe is an indication of that trend. Have you seen this sort of same thing happening with companies from the US, where it's, let's say, the same scenario?
Yes, well, we hear also from our members that do studies around these, say, location choices, that the number of projects in this area is really increasing. So that many companies are now looking, well, how did I design my supply chain before? Often it was based on, say, the happy flow, one sourcing location with really repetitive ocean rates and lead times, as little stock as possible in a hub, and then distribute to your end customers. And now, well, this happy flow or the just-in-time flow is moving more towards, say, just in case. Not only have stock in one location, but also have some safety stock in other regions around the globe. Not only depend on that sourcing location, but also have other sourcing locations around the globe, that once a next crisis will hit, and it will, that you're less dependent, that you will not lose customer orders, that you will also be able to look at the freight costs, because I think those will, of course, drop to the levels they are now, but they will not go back to the 2000 US most probably for a container from Shanghai to Rotterdam. So that's also something to take into account when you develop your business case. So what are the freight costs, and what are the locations I want to be active globally?
Yeah. I don't know if there are any questions in the meantime, and I lost track a bit of how long we were talking. Is there? I can't read it. I see something on the screen. Is there anyone that could? Can you read it? Could anyone tell me?
Yeah, I see here a question. Say the Brexit implications. What are your expectations for the next couple of years? Will say the number of projects we talked about, will that drop, or will it still continue growing?
Yeah.
I think it will still be a major source of projects the next coming years. Because what we've seen now is many, say, quick fixes, many projects that maybe were the smaller projects, also the extension we just talked about. Maybe they will add on some additional activities. But also some companies did some financial analysis. Okay, my current UK setup, I will keep it as is and will test how much it will cost to continue supplying the EU with this setup, and get our data, get our cost figures, and maybe at a certain stage they will say, okay, this is still too costly to continue running it like this for the next couple of years or decades. I will make my move to the EU.
Yeah.
So, and I think that development will be there for many years, as it's also very depending on the type of business you are, the industry you're in.
We were talking before we went live on. Now imagine that some of those that are listening and looking at what we're doing right here are in that situation where they're currently dependent on, let's say, delivery out of Asia. And are they between a rock and a hard place at this point, or how could we help those companies that are in that current situation? Do you have any ideas on that? What we could do for them?
Yeah, well, I think the key there is in the short term, or the short term fix is also visibility of what is happening. And there's quite some good providers out there with smart software platforms that really manage the entire, say, process of your purchase order to the delivery on a SKU level. It's visible. So really you only see the deviations of the process. And with that kind of tools, you can, well, at least better manage the situation. And then in parallel, you can look at, okay, what will be my new model? And maybe you can start looking at sources already today from different regions.
And when you talk about those tools, are those, what is this, software tools, or what kind of things are you talking about?
Yes, well, that is the transport management system from logistics service providers. It's becoming more and more sophisticated, that a shipper can really see real time where is the cargo, which SKUs are on which container. So with that information, at least you can inform your customers, you can plan better, you can manage the crisis in a better way. Without that, you're lost anyway.
And is your experience that logistical service providers here have more of those tools available to them than let's say the typical 3PL company in the US? Are they more advanced here? Is that the difference between what is called our supply chain excellence, or?
Well, I would not put it as a regional capability, because many of these tools also are with global providers, global platform logistics providers, so they offer this service in a global fashion. What we do see is that many routes, say from APAC to Europe, are routed through Rotterdam. So a lot of forwarders and also many of our members offer these kind of services and tools for their customers.
Okay. Companies that come from the US and that have a number of choices to make. So let's assume that they're currently active in the UK and they're rethinking their how competitive are we in our offerings here as far as supply chain services, vis-a-vis if you compare it with Germany or France or the countries that are surrounding us. Do you have any idea?
Yes, well, we developed a logistics proposition back in 2020 about, say, logistics in the Netherlands. And there's also some costing factors included in there. And when you then look at the combination of land prices, labor prices, but also days of strikes, for example, which is very low in the Netherlands, and the entire cost of operation, we are number one hub for many shippers globally in that combination. Also, the Port of Rotterdam is the first port of call for the large ships to land in Rotterdam first. Schiphol Airport, of course, is a very well-connected airport. And with the well-developed logistics industry, accounting to almost 9% of the GDP, and well, a lot of European distribution activities, we're a top choice for many shippers globally.
Maybe it's good to say a few words about before it's the end of the session. Let's say the nature of our services. I don't know if all the PA companies know about that. So we're here based in The Hague. We're not here in The Hague right now, Rotterdam, but that's 20 minutes north of where we are based, where our offices are based. We've been the Pennsylvania Authorized Trade Representative responsible for the Benelux since 2008. And when we started out with PA companies, a few companies had been active in our region. In the meantime, I believe we've served hundreds of PA companies, amounting to a few million worth of sales each year. And so our assistance covers a broad range that's all in the area of international business development. So tools like doing market analysis, partner search, arranging company meetings, background checks, walking trade shows, and helping with to sort out problems in the supply chain area. And so for that particular part, we've been collaborating with HIDC now already for many years, and can do that also on behalf of Pennsylvania companies that are at this point rethinking what they should do and want someone to talk to sort of figure out the process that they want to be involved in. So all these services, including the support that we can offer from HIDC, are free of charge for Pennsylvania companies. Again, is that a question on the screen I'm seeing, or okay? Could anyone read that out loud, because I can't read it unless I walk up to the screen?
I will read it. It's a question around VAT. What are the VAT implications from Brexit? What happens if goods are imported to the UK and then resold to an EU customer? Also, if goods have been imported into the EU and held in a warehouse there, can VAT be reclaimed if goods are sold to a UK customer? Well, when you now look at, say, the UK and the EU, these are now different VAT territories.
Yeah.
So when it's sold in one territory and VAT has been charged, well, you could not reclaim that in another VAT territory.
Okay.
But we can definitely. It depends also on, say, the setup of the company to give more specific advice on the flows. So we can definitely link some partners from our network. We've got quite some VAT specialists in our council.
Yeah.
To really look at the flows, business to business, business to consumer, and what the also best setup is there.
Yeah. Are you familiar in the US that they call this free trading zones? Is that a term is that sort of what we would call bonded warehousing? Is that the same thing?
Yeah,
okay.
The same thing. Yeah. And the free trade zones, in the US or in Asia are often also, say, physically separated areas in a industrial area. In the Netherlands, this bonded warehouse is linked to the license the 3PL has, and with that, the bonded status can be kept and managed. Not necessary to make physical distinction of the building. Within the premises, you need to manage well, of course, which products are bonded and which are not bonded.
Right. We also quickly touched before we had this session on something called value-added logistics. Mm-hmm. What is that exactly?
Yes, well, that's a very broad term and can mean many things. And there's great examples out there that companies put together a machine at a later stage in the Netherlands, put a power plug to the final shipment for a consumer in another market, add a manual but also really do software updates, do all kinds of rework to the products. We know examples where semi-knockdown tractors are delivered to the Netherlands, and with a kind of assembly line, they are assembled in the Netherlands prior to their end customers.
And so co-packing, for instance, which you see in food, is also something.
Yeah, and that's really more than just moving around product and boxes. It's really adding value to the supply chain and to the process of the customer. Because in the end, managing it like that will save cost, will save time, and will make the customer in the end more happy about the process.
Is that a growing segment of business? Let's say for 3PL companies, you think?
Yes, it has been for many years already. Yeah. But you do see extension after extension there, where the shipper and the logistics provider really become long-term partners. They're really an extension of the business. With software updates or with customer service activities or cash-to-order processes the entire or invoicing activities that the logistics provider is taking up the phone for customer A right now and in 5 minutes for customer B, but still able to really have the customer-specific approach. And so logistics is much more than moving around these.
So they're moving really into sort of customer service areas where they.
Yes. And the good thing about that is that the shipper will focus on their core activity. They can do marketing and sales, research, development. They will focus on their core, and the logistics, customer service, the entire process that comes with that and needs to be managed well, of course, is a core activity of the logistics provider. Yeah. And with that combination, you see long-term partnerships established.
Yeah. A few things that came to mind before we maybe start to close this off. When we saw the 60-minute item, it also was speaking about prices that were spiking really. Yeah. Do we see things that, is that having an influence on us here? Are prices stable as far as 3PL services are concerned, or are we seeing changes at the moment?
Changes.
Yeah?
Yes. Because these increases from $2,000 to $20,000, the garden set that is in the container will also get a different price level.
Yeah.
So the inflation when you it's also in the documentary you saw that this is inflation visible. You see it out there with all these delays and disruptions. The cost will increase. You see it in many parts of our lives at the moment. Yeah.
But is that a gradual change, or is that the same thing? Is that having effect on us, which you now see happening in the US, where some prices are tenfold? We're not seeing that, are we? Or?
I'm not sure about the current inflation in the Netherlands. I do know examples that in the logistics arena increases of 8-9% are proposed as per January next year.
Okay.
So that customers will need to pay that.
Yeah, that is a bit of a shock, but it's a different kind of shock than what I saw in that item where prices were sort of tenfold of what they were a couple of months ago or last year. So. Anything else? This is probably it.
Yes. Current status of COVID in the EU and the Netherlands. Yes. In the Netherlands we just entered a mild lockdown, as they call it. So for 3 weeks we're now seeing some restrictions. Vaccination profiles quite high. I believe 86% or so.
Yeah.
But you see in Germany, in France, Austria, UK, you see, cases going up again. So we'll have to live with it for the next couple of years for sure.
That's. I think everyone is sort of getting very much aware that this is not a short-term thing. So we're now getting ready for our booster.
Yes, exactly.
Shot. Yeah. And that will start end of this year, I think, next month. We'll start with And then, so no, we're in the middle of it, but it's not hampering business at the moment.
No,
so
no.
You see people working in the office, you see people working at home. You see people. We just yesterday met with a group of companies out of Pennsylvania that's currently visiting the Netherlands, and everyone was shaking hands, and so no one was giving the box. So it's we're living with it.
Yes.
And there are a couple of countries that are more restricted than we are. So, but it's constant number one on our agenda, also politically. So. I think we've come to the end of it, which makes sense, so you can start your working day. Hopefully we've been able to inspire you a bit and inform you a bit about what's going on our end of the sea. We thank you for your attention, and thank you, Jelle, for being our guest today for Pennsylvania. And with that, goodbye to you all.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, Peter.